Well, a pleasant good afternoon and welcome to 7 Eyewitness News right here on Win TV. I'm your host, Sheldon Yearwood. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our online viewers at wintvworld.com. We're coming to you live from Lunch Park in Chaguanas. Well, it was a very interesting night last night in Chaguanas and Gaston Court, to be exact, where the first round of debates for the executive of the internal elections of the COP took place. And I actually went across there with my reporters and the camera crew just to get a glimpse of the energy from the audience, from the crowd of supporters. Very interesting indeed. Mr. Tony, Ms. Karnati Bisad and Mr. Ramjet all spoke, vying for the post of chairmanship. Of course, Mr. Tony vying for another 2 years. And what I found very interesting, of course, everybody got up to give, their presentation, and clearly, based on the crowd reaction, Ms. Bisad and Mr. Tony, despite the criticisms being leveled against him by, of course, in particular, Mr. Alan Roberts, seem to have a lot of support still. But one of the more interesting developments coming out of that meeting last evening actually was statements made by the political leader of the COP, Mr. Prakash Ramada. Now, this story is really going to raise some hairs because in the story or in the statement he expressed some concerns about, the COP number one, stating, of course, they need to get back that fire and that energy. He also made the point that the COP is here to stay, despite, what people are saying, despite the fact that there are those members who have been disappointed in the direction the party has been going. We know the ups and downs and the trials and so forth. But he also made mention of the fact that in 2010, his exact words were that Mr. Winston Dukeran should have been the Prime Minister. Now, I'm going to leave you to judge that statement for yourself based on the story that was done by Daryl Hirilal as to where exactly Mr. Ramada was going with this statement. We tried to contact Minister Munilal and others to get a comment, but as you know, Parliament is in session. But this is something to seriously follow up on. Minister Ramada, of course, he was in a fiery mood last evening as he stated, yes, the COP really has to, remain a formidable force within the People's Party of government. And despite all the ups and downs, they are here to stay. At this point, but Mr. Dukeran really did, I should say, paws raise. Well, we're going to get some feedback on this, I'm sure, from the public as well as from other members of the partnership as to how they feel about this statement from Minister Ramada. But when we get to the story, you're going to make a judgment for yourself on that one. Let's continue with some more news at this point in time. Well, for those of you who actually planned to go shopping in the True Value supermarket may have met shut doors. Well, scratch that. You would have met shut doors because all of the True Value supermarkets, all of the establishments were closed today. This after workers took industrial action and opted not to work due to the slow pace of wage negotiations. Head of True Value, Govind Maharaj, says the supermarket is offered a 7% wage increase, but workers are saying this is not enough. We're going to give you the details on this developing story in just a short while as well. Today in Presal, the much controversial food cards. Well, 250 were given out to recipients today in Presal, and the minister made it very clear that the food card is a conditional card. Basically, what that means, it's a needs assessment, and this has been, and I have had instances where even in the open house, and I want to just, before, as we get to that, remind that, of course, the open house takes place tomorrow from 10 o'clock, receiving numerous, of course, so just remember to keep within the time frame. There are people who actually apply for the food card, I know for a fact, and when you do a needs assessment, they may not necessarily need it. And the minister is making it very clear that, yes, they are here to deal with the social services, that's, of course, the social ills, but it's a needs assessment. Now, this, of course, a cross-section of the crowd that came out to receive and in some cases apply for the TT card. And returning as well now to the debate last evening, it was no surprise during the Q&A segment of the debate last evening in Gaston Courts that Mr. Tony would have asked his fellow, how should I say, friendly rivals for the post of chairmanship about how they feel about Minister Warner and Minister Anil Roberts. Ironically, Minister Roberts was not in attendance at the debate last evening, but I'm sure he is going to put his 2 cents in when he believes the time is right. A man, of course, who does not mince his words at all, right? And in some other news, well, we had the passing of Mr. Bertie Marshall, and condolences continue to pour in. We had a lovely tribute to him yesterday during the course of 7 Eyewitness News. Well, today we lost another great individual. It's the wife of the former Prime Minister, George Chambers. She died, I believe what they said, she fell in her bathroom, and based on complications from that, she passed away. So we're going to, of course, express our condolences to the Chambers family on the passing of Mr. Chambers' wife yesterday. So lots to look forward to in the news. Of course, later on, we actually have several newsmakers for you, all of them coming out of the COP debate last evening. Very interesting debate indeed, and we're going to give you, it's from the political leader, from Mr. Tony, from Ms. Ramjit, and of course the Q&A segment. So you can look forward to that coming up during the course of the program. I'm going to break it up for you, the 5 different newsmakers. So it's a very interesting program. As always, sit back and relax. When we come back, it's your major news. Stay tuned. And welcome back to 7 Eyewitness News right here on Win TV. Thank you for staying with us. In our first story, Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar was not the right choice for the Prime Minister job she took in 2010. Well, this from a more than usual bitter-sounding Congress of the People leader, Prakash Ramadan, who made the comment to party members on Thursday night. And Darhulal tells us more in this report.
Leader of the Congress of the People, Prakash Ramadan, is singing the same Sour Grapes tune they have sung for the past 2 years, but this time with a bit more venom. On Thursday night, Ramadan addressed the party faithful during the COP's first elections debate for internal executive positions. Ramadan spent a significant part of the 6-minute address focusing on what he presented as a case of the COP being robbed of its fair share in the People's Partnership. And he started off this round of complaints insinuating that Kamala Persad-Bissessar was a wrong choice for the job of Prime Minister when the partnership swept the May 24, 2010 polls.
And in 2010, when the election was called, we gave selflessly of our leader who ought to have been the Prime Minister. We gave selflessly of our work because we knew Trinidad and Tobago needed a change. But the sad fact is that after we went in the relationship that got us into government in the People's Partnership, many of our supporters, a large majority of us, felt, well, listen, we had worked so long, we wanted to see a COP in power, we wanted to see a COP Prime Minister, that it was a level of disappointment and disenchantment.
Ramadan then continued with the cry that the Congress of the People has been cheated of its fair share in the partnership.
Having gone into a terrible equation in 2010, with limited numbers, we have been able to move from strength to strength. But there are those who will want to define us by our success as failures. And when good things happen to the party and you hear that you eat a food and you sell out and you compromise, I say not one bit of that is true.
And to round it off, Ramadan then tried to downplay his previous assertions by saying the party's new politics has changed the style of governance in the country. He added the COP is still a force in local politics.
The Congress of the People is here to stay. I want to make that abundantly clear. We have not been diminished. We have not been diminished in any form or fashion in terms of our core value.
So with this latest attack on the partnership and the UNC with the battle cry that Persad-Bissessar was the wrong choice for Prime Minister, it is to be seen how far Ramadan's comments will further erode the coalition. Daryl Hirulal for 7 Eyewitness News.
You be the judge. Kicked off the playing field and on the back bench over accusations that he behaved ungamely. Finance Minister Colin Partab has been given a bye, even if a small one, to get back onto the field of play. 2 months after Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar fired him from his job as Junior Minister of National Security, Partab has been appointed to the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament. Partab, you'll remember, was held by police after leaving the Zen nightclub after police said he refused to take a breathalyzer test. The announcement was made by Government Chief Whip Dr. Rulal Monilal.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that Mr. Colin Paratap be appointed to serve as a member of the Public Accounts Committee in place of Dr. Rupert Griffith.
Honorable members, the question is that Mr. Colin Pratap be appointed to serve as a member of the Public Accounts Committee in place of Dr. Rupert Griffith. All in favor say aye. Any against? The ayes have it.
But there may yet be another test to pass before Partap gets back in the game, as the police file on the incident is to be sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions. Well, Minister Prakash Ramada is standing by the decision of Joseph Tony, who turned down the offer to represent the Ministry of Finance at the Clico HCU inquiry. Speaking to reporters on Thursday night, Ramada praised Tony for his decision. Last week, Minister of Finance Larry Hawaii fired the legal team led by Farid Hussain, SC, and announced that Asinath Jairam, SC, and Tony would be given the briefs. Ramada defended Hawaii's actions and said the minister was within his rights. Following the COP's first elections debate for internal executive positions, Ramada defended the reputation of his incumbent chairman.
As you know, the brief has brought about certain questions and so. And Mr. Tony has acted in a manner that shows that there are selfless people in this nation who are willing to do what is necessary to prove even that their character and their name is more important than money.
In some other news now, True Value Supermarkets suffered significant losses today as it was forced to close its doors. This after workers took industrial action and opted not to work due to the slow pace of wage negotiations. Head of True Value, Govind Maharaj, says supermarket is offered a 7% wage increase, but workers say this is not enough. We have more in this report from Judy Kanhai.
If you went to True Value Supermarket today, most likely you might have been met with closed doors. Well, that is if you went to the ones either at Val Park Shopping Plaza, Trincity Mall or Long Circular Mall. The other three at Diamond Vale, One Woodbrook Place and El Socorro remained open for the most part of the day. This due to ongoing wage negotiations between True Value's management and the Banking, Insurance and General Workers Trade Union. Head of True Value, Govind Maharaj, says this morning weekly paid workers came out to work for 1 hour. They then indicated that they will not be working for the rest of the day. Maharaj told 7 Eyewitness News that he was shocked by the action taken by the workers since wage negotiations did not break down. But President General of the BIGWU, Vincent Cabrera, says a meeting was scheduled for today with the supermarket, but they cancelled, and it's not the first time they have done so. In defense, Maharaj says meetings have been cancelled by both parties in the past, and this was never an issue. The supermarket has put a 7% wage increase on the table, but this has been rejected by the union. Maharaj says the wages paid are in line with leading players in the industry. But employees tell 7 Eyewitness News that the wage offer on the table would give them just over $1 increase per hour, and they're frustrated and fed up with the pace at which the negotiations are going. Both parties have been negotiating since 2010. True Value was unable to say how much money it lost today. Judy Kanhai, 7 Eyewitness News.
And while staying on the industrial front, workers of the Pan American Life Insurance Company have received a 15% wage increase. The agreement was signed today between the company's management and the Banking, Insurance and General Workers Union. The insurance company was previously called Algico and was owned then by MetLife, but was acquired by Pan American Life Insurance Company last year. CEO and Managing Director of Pan American Life Insurance Company, Miguel Sierra, says it was really important for the company to conclude the negotiations since it was not settled by MetLife.
This win-win environment, this win-win situation. So I think that the employees are going very happy. Also, we've heard from the agents that they felt that by closing this deal, the whole environment of the company is going to improve.
Meanwhile, President of the Banking, Insurance and General Workers Union, Vincent Cabrera, says after months of negotiations, he's pleased the negotiations have finally been settled.
5% wage cap, which has now, and some people have now gone into the 9% wage cap. we are of the view that you do not wear caps when you're doing collective bargaining. I've never seen Mr. Jerry Pinal walk in a negotiations with a cap.
He says the 15% wage increase will be a benchmark for negotiations in the financial sector, and he hopes that other companies would exercise the same levels of discretion and fairness in their negotiations.
I hope other companies in the finance sector would follow the good example that has been shown by this company. It is a foreign company, but it's a company that has brought certain benefits to Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, in other news now, the food cards being distributed by the government given on a conditional basis. This from the Minister of the People and Social Development, Dr. Glenn Ramadar Singh, as he spoke to residents of Presal this morning. The minister distributed 250 food cards to persons in the region at a function held at the Presal Community Center after addressing the conditional premises of the card.
What you want for the rest of your life? You now are part of a program. We are going to ask you how many children you have. And if you lie, we will take it back. No, we won't take it back like that. I mean, don't lie. How many children you have? Are they in school? Are they going to school? What is the percentage attendance in school? We're going to ask you these questions 3 months from now. And only when you have satisfied the requirements of this program in 3 months' time, then you will be renewed.
Ramadar Singh stated that the People's Partnership will ensure social justice for all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Speak, and you will be listened to by the Ministry of the People, which is under the patronage of the Prime Minister. It was a brainchild that everyone must be as equal as every other person. Whether you come from Ikakas, whether you come from Lavantil, whether you come from here in Freeport, you are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, equal to every other citizen in this land. Welcome to the Ministry of the People. Welcome to social equity and social justice like never before in Trinidad and Tobago.
In some other news now, Enterprise residents are in full praise of the Shogunas Police, who they have been given full marks for keeping crime in check in their area. Villagers met with the police and the National Security Minister Jack Warner on Thursday night as part of the ministry's community tours. Warner said he was heartened by what he heard from the residents.
As people, and all of us as institutions, we have our faults and we make mistakes. But the police have been vilified left, right, and center, and one gets the impression there's nothing like a good police. Tonight, however, I have heard that the community, there are people here who are praising the police, the efforts, the work being done with the youth.
Warner encouraged more citizens to follow the lead of Enterprise and take more pride in their communities.
And we don't seem to have a pride where we live. And I hope that by talking out and so on, we will help also to change that attitude, that we could have a pride in our home, in our surroundings, and so on.
Well, this time we take a short break. When we come back, more news from the COP internal debate. Stay tuned. Welcome back to 7 Eyewitness News. We continue with our news. I'm just remembering, in just a few minutes, we're going to bring you the first of 5 newsmakers coming out from, of course, the internal elections for executive positions within the COP. You heard from the political leader expressing some serious concerns. And, usually you look at the comparison between, they talk about the mild-mannered Bruce Wayne, and of course you have Batman. Well, the mild-mannered Prakash Ramadar seemed to be quite on fire last evening, even making a point about Winston Dukran. Of course, should have actually had the post of Prime Minister. I don't know how people will feel about those statements. We're going to run that story for you as well, so you can actually give your judgment for yourself. But we turn now to the elections. Well, Joseph Tony's apparent obsession or fixation with his party colleague Anna Roberts and UNC Chairman Jack Warner again showed itself on Thursday night when the Congress of the People held its first debate for internal executive positions in the party at Gaston Court, Chaguanas. Now, Carlos Bechan and Rebecca Ramjet are contesting Tony for the chairmanship of the COP. When Tony's chance came to question his opponents on party policy, he asked Bechan whether she would have Warner as a cabinet member if she were prime minister, to which she said she would never be the prime minister.
Would you include Mr. Jack Warner, with all that you know about him, in your cabinet?
With Mr. Jack Warner, I would say, first of all, we have taken a party position with respect to that. We have enunciated that, and we must stand by that position if we are the Congress of the people. So I stand with my political leader where that position is.
He then asked Ramjet about Roberts, to which she said the people would decide.
Mr. Anil Roberts comes to you as a candidate in the next general elections. Given all that you know of Mr. Anil Roberts, would you accept him as a candidate for the Congress of the People in a general election campaign?
And therefore, if Mr. Anil Roberts is the selection of his constituency, I will have no quarrel with that.
In some other news, National Security Minister Jack Warner has been described as a man who sees the bigger picture. Speaking on Sunrise this morning, Community Development Minister Winston Gypsy Peters commended Warner for his initiatives in what some call P&M areas. Minister Peters explained that as National Security Minister, Warner is using these initiatives to create something better than what exists now.
Say you're being told that is because of the politics and you want to take over the place, that is why you come there. That's not what it is about. Yeah. That is not, and we have to somehow or the other find some way and some programs or something to tell people that the development of Trinidad and Tobago must be in every nook and cranny of Trinidad and Tobago. You cannot have in a country people who are deemed to be and then believe that they are second-class citizens in their own country.
Minister Peters explained that not all citizens are fortunate enough to be self-sustaining. He beckoned those who are more fortunate to assist their fellow citizens. Peters said that Laventille has been brainwashed and confused, accounting for the neglect over the years.
Laventille has become a place where the PNM, when they are in power, takes them for granted. So they ignore them, because whether we help you or not, you're going to be us. So they take them for granted. And when another entity comes into being in the country in a political way to rule, and they try to help Laventille, they are told that these people are coming up here for one reason, because they're trying to take over your place. They're trying to get you to vote for them. And so they're between a rock and a hard place.
The minister called on Laventille to remember its value and worth. He pleaded with them to not be blinded by politics and accept the assistance being offered.
Not at all. Laventille is one of the richest places in Trinidad and Tobago. You have the resilience of the people that have been suppressed. Who says that Laventille is poor? You ever went up Laventille and look around Trinidad?
Many times, yep.
It's the most beautiful place in the world.
Well,
Trinidad and Tobago is yet to understand the importance of arts and culture and still undervalues its pioneers. Minister Peters lamented that great cultural innovators in the country, such as the recently passed Bertie Marshall, have to suffer.
Hansley, because Trinidad and Tobago is a place where people do not consider creativity and creative people as significant. And I say this without fear of contradiction. It has happened not only to Bertie, and Bertie would not be the last person. We give a lot of lip service because people still ask you when you're a singer or anything, calypsonian or so. So what job you do?
yeah.
So where you work?
Minister Peters explained that culture is one of the most influential and important parts of any society.
Dictatorial government wants to take over a country, that the first thing they do is suppress the culture.
Yeah.
because
they burn the books.
Of course.
They silence the singers.
Because the expression, the cultural expression is what alerts the people to what's really happening.
Yeah.
The minister stressed the need for cooperation and continuity in developing the nation. He explained that unless persons can put aside the individual need for recognition and work towards the betterment of all, there will be no progression. When we go to now some crime briefs, well, a man was shot dead at Windy Hill, Aruka on Thursday night in what police say was a reprisal killing. The man was said to be involved in criminal activity and was described by residents as a pest. Up to news time, is only identified as Shaka and is said to be in his mid-40s. Residents told police they heard several gunshots around 8:45 p.m. and the man was later found dead at the side of the road. Police say the man was involved in several shootings and a recent murder in the Aruka area. Constables Paul De Leon and Sunil Ramuta are investigating. And meanwhile, 55-year-old Jiwan Rupchan of Chase Village was killed in an accident near his home. Now, how his death actually happened is still somewhat of a mystery. Around 7 p.m., Rupchan's mangled body was seen pinned under a trailer truck just stopped near Russell Rampasad Hardware on the southern main road. Police believe Rupchan was hit by another car before the trailer truck rolled over him. There's some other crime news now. A criminal who threatened to kidnap a businessman and his 5-year-old son if he did not sign over his Nissan Navara van to him was arrested by police this morning. The 25-year-old Presal man was caught at the San Fernando offices of the licensing division where he went to have the van transferred. Police say the would-be kidnapper went to the home of the businessman last week where he threatened him at gunpoint to burn down his house and kidnap him and his son. The businessman told the police, and this morning Sergeant Jerry Hossein and Corporal Radi Kisun set up a sting. The criminal had contacted the businessman and instructed that they meet at the San Fernando licensing office to do the transfer of the van. The criminal also told the businessman that the air conditioning in the van was not working and told him that he must repair it. The suspect is expected to be charged with extortion, amongst other crimes. It good. And in some other news at this time, well, the wife of the country's second prime minister passed away at her Santa Margarita St. Augustine home last night. Sources state that an 81-year-old Juliana Chambers, wife of former Prime Minister George Chambers, died after she reportedly collapsed in her bathroom. Her husband held office from 1981 to 1986 under the People's National Movement. One of her last public appearances was as a guest at the People's National Movement 50th anniversary celebrations. At that function, she shared the view that 50 years after the country attained independence, national pride is still very much alive. This year, she received the Order of the Republic of TNT posthumously for her late husband, who died in 1997 at the age of 69. The couple had one daughter, Andrea. Investigations are being conducted by the St. Joseph Police. Our condolences go out to the family, and of course, condolences continue to pour in, even from the Prime Minister, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, who has expressed condolences to the family, stating that the government of Trinidad and Tobago wishes them well, of course, at this tragic time in their life. The management and staff of Wind Communications also join the nation in wishing sympathy to the family. But this time we take a short break. When we come back, it's your calls and our first of 5 newsmakers right here on 7 Eyewitness News. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to 7 Eyewitness News right here on Win TV. Thank you for staying with us. Really, really interesting news today. Lots happening. So let's take your calls. And let's remember it's Friday evening, all right? Smile. 665-6278, 665-6278. Caller, a pleasant good evening. You're on the air. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good day to you.
Yes, I just want to comment briefly on 2 points. One with respect to the COP.
Speak a little louder, please.
Yes,
Sorry about that.
I just want to comment on 2 areas, with the COP and with the food card. The food card, the COP. Are you hearing me now, Sheldon?
Just once. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, yes, Sheldon. When the COP came on the scene, there was great hope in my mind. They had good ideas, and they were refreshing. But after At this point in time, I consider the COP spineless, weak, tainted, of no consequence, and in the words of Mr. Pandey, I consider them now a corpse. They have shown no strength, the mentality towards standing up for what you say you are. And secondly, I want to talk about the food card. I like Mr. Glenn Rabadasing, but I believe that in many respects he's politicizing the food card. When you go out to give the food card and you tell the people after 3 months we're going to investigate, how could you do that? The means test must be done before, Sheldon, so the people would not have to go and give it back. Those questions he says that he's asking them about the children, how many children you have, and it's after 3 months they're going to withhold it. I think a more comprehensive, objective, and the criteria should be established so that the people will not get it in 3 months and then have to return it. So I think it is being politicized. It is my humble view. And I hope that Mr. Glenn Ramadasing, who will probably listen to this, will take that in hand and not politicize the food card program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's continue with your calls. Thank you for your comment. Caller on the air. Pleasant good evening. What are your views on the stories today? Hello, good evening to you.
I want to make... Good afternoon, Sheldon.
Pleasant good afternoon to you, sir.
I want to deal first with Mr. Ramadan.
Go ahead.
Deal with Mr. Ramadan.
Yes,
I
please,
wanted to know when he was on the hustings, if he didn't realize that the Prime Minister, if he didn't realize that the Prime Minister would have been Kamala Prasad Bisesa. That was all along. Everybody knew, the whole of Trinidad knew. So to come and say now the wrong person was chosen to be Prime Minister is very, very untrue. That man, he wouldn't win an election to run the COP again, you know, because 9/10 of the people who supported him have gone back to the UNC.
Let me ask you a question, caller. Are you surprised that the state... Caller, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Are you surprised, and I'm asking to all viewers, are you surprised by the statements made by the political leader of the COP?
I think I am a bit surprised, but I think now that he's fighting for his post. Because it seems to me that a hell of a lot of people in the COP don't like him. I was a member of the COP, my entire family, but we leave them. We leave them. Okay?
Okay.
One more point. I am happy to state that I'd like to see Penelope Bickles, what she's cleared the air on Mr. Hines' studies in England. But I would also like her to clear the air, what she thinks. But I think a lot of Penelope, because I feel she could be the leader of the PNM someday. I think a lot of her. But I want to know what she would think and say, or she would upbraid Mr. Hines for the manner in which he castigated the ADB. You understand me? Now, if you read today's newspaper, you would see that 70-something% of the people are not East Indians. They are people of the African race who are in the thing. Where is this man getting? And he's preaching race all along the line. I hope she says something about that. If she doesn't say, I would think otherwise of Ms. Penelope Bickles. Thank you very much, Sheldon.
Thank you much for your comments as well. Very interesting comments indeed thus far. Caller, pleasant good evening. Take about 2 more calls, then we'll go to our first newsmaker. Caller on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, Sheldon. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm blessed, man.
Okay, Friday. Sheldon, that gentleman from Crystal who did the alleged kidnapping of the businessman, his son, and the vehicle.
Right.
And he wanted to carry the man license off and sign over. And this man so mad, telling the man he had a fixed air condition. Sheldon, I would have kept a man in the court tomorrow. I let the magistrate try him and sentence him for life, you know. Not for kidnapping or stealing, you know, but for dotishness. This man real dotish. So that's exactly what I do. Sentence him for life for dotishness. Later.
Man, make me laugh. Sorry. Ooh. Friday. Energy. Let's take another call. Caller, you're on the air. Good evening. Welcome.
Hello, Sheldon.
Hi, good day. Hey, how you doing? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I'm getting a little feedback. Go ahead. Yeah. Ooh, I apologize. Sorry about that. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead. Check the line and see what's happening. Caller, go ahead.
Good evening, Sheldon.
Yes, ma'am. Good day.
Sheldon, I am still waiting. The people of Lupino Bonne is still waiting to see some work being done on our roads. We've not seen Lincoln Douglas, our representative, for the past, I don't know, since election. And our roads is getting worse and worse. Our shocks is going, front end is going, we're not see this man, you're not telling us anything. Please, I'm asking you to your station to ask Lincoln Douglas. Is not because he's a minister, he will reject the people who support him and who stain their finger and make him a member of parliament. He must come back to us.
Well,
Because there will be another time around. Please, I'm asking you, Sheldon.
Let me ask you a question. Any
Douglas.
Before you go, any particular area in Bonnie Aruka, any particular road, or is it just generally
Whole
speaking?
of Aruka, Bonnie, Five Rivers, Cane Farm, it is a total mess. No road paving or nothing. We want to sell some road paving, Sheldon. Please, I'm appealing to you. Tell Mr. Lincoln Douglas to come back to his people and try and pave some roads for us. Please.
Well, here what I'm actually taking note of these things because here what's happening. As you know, we have the open house tomorrow. And the reason why I decided to have the third one, because I have a few cases that sort of backed up on me, and I wanted to sort of itemize everything and get everything in some order. This is actually part of the file I have here with the files on it, with some cases from before. Some worked out, some I'm still working on. And I'm actually going to try and itemize even some of the complaints that you all are bringing forth today and I'm trying my best to have all of them settled, or at least the relevant authority deal with it, to give some sort of relief, whether it be individual cases or community cases. So I've taken note of it. Actually, no. Let's take our first newsmaker, actually. Let's go to our first newsmaker. And it's actually from Ms. Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan during her speech for the chairmanship. Now, each participant, or each of the candidates, had roughly about 10 minutes or so to speak, each of the candidates. So, but I'm not going to play the full 10 minutes, but most of it, the top of the hour, let me go to the headlines. So let's go now to our first newsmaker, Ms. Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan, as she vies for the post of chairman of the COP.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, political leader, members of the COP family. I want to say this is a great evening. This is how we do business in the COP. And that is why we stand out, separate from everyone else. I stand by the principles and values of our party, the COP, the Congress of the People. I stand by the new politics. I am a founding member of this party. Why did I decide to run as chairman? We must all face up to reality. Over the past couple months, this party has come under severe attack, inside and outside of the cabinet. There's an opinion that our party is being compromised. There's an opinion that as we were founded, we have lost our way. When the COP was founded, it was agreed that the COP must be a flagship and the way forward for this country. We had all our documents. I left it there. The new politics, Charter for Change, nationhood building. Do you recall those documents? All of those documents, my dear friends, were the living reality of the COP. My friends, if we are to be a party that will be able to make a change in this country, which we set out to be, it was about educating a nation, changing a culture. We were not just a party with political machinery to win an election. We developed structures and systems and processes in this party. Many of you here this evening participated in those organs of the party. As Reka said, we went out there, 50 meetings in 10 days, 10 nights, preaching, exciting the public. Why? Because we were about to make that change. We had a policy unit. Do you recall that policy unit? The youths, Ashaki, Kiran, all the youths, you participated in that. You informed the way forward. I want to tell you, the manifesto of the People's Partnership Government is made up of many of those policies which you developed in those years. So let us not forget where we came from. But for some reason, we seem to have lost the passion in our party. Probably we all got too busy, but we are losing the passion in our party. My friends, the slogan for my campaign is back on track in this party. Nothing is wrong with that. The biggest organizations in the world, major corporations and multinationals, from time to time will go off course. But you know what they do? They get back on track. And they do so by revisiting their value proposition. I propose as chairman that we revisit our value proposition and that we once again coalesce around our principles and values that we hold so dear to us. My friends, how do we bring back that passion? How do we bring back that value proposition? We need to rebuild the organs and structures of this party. What has happened to all the structures that we had? We had stuff like dispute resolution. That is one of the first institutions. The amount of negative energy we hear in this party, the disputes we hear, can be easily solved with our dispute resolution organ. We had one made up of a 4-member team. And do you know, with that 4-member team, once they started any bickering, they call you in and your problem was solved. What happened to our community circles? Look at these circles. You notice what happens with them? They start small at the center and they grow and they grow, representing our growth in the sphere of influence in this country as we make that change. Oh, yeah, sure. And when this evening, some of our speakers speak about going back to the ground through our community circles were not party groups. Never intended to be party groups. It's about how you build that community. To partner with your local government councillors as we build community-based governance in our country. A concept known only to the COP. Today, it is part of the government of the People's Partnership because of the COP. So there is that disconnect between the party and its membership. There is that disconnect between the party and its ministers. And I want to get to that issue because, you know, one of the things I'm hearing here this evening is a lot about having this independent voice. And you cannot be a cabinet minister and be a chairman of a party. And I want to address that issue. Mr. Chairman. I have time? Okay. I want to deal with that issue because it was raised by the last speaker, Rekha Ramjit. Let me just say it to you. And let me start by saying, many are saying that, you know, as members of cabinet, we are employed by the Prime Minister and that we are paid a salary. And what I do not like about that comment is to give the impression that we are in some way compromised, the ministers representing the COP in the cabinet. Let me start by saying, and I've said this publicly, and I will say it again. Collective responsibility must never overshadow transparency and accountability to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. My friends, collective responsibility must never overshadow the principles and values of this party, the Congress of the People. And I want to tell you here today, I stand by the COP. I stand by the principles and values of this party. I will never deviate from the principles and values of this party. And if there are consequences, I will take those consequences. It is not a problem for me. But I want to make... You see, to do otherwise is to really engage in a disconnect between our party and our members in the cabinet. The members in the cabinet represent this party. The members of this cabinet who are COP ministers are there to take the party's ideas, the principles, the values, and influence government. That is the purpose of our being. And if you are saying that our party is separate from that and must have an independent voice, then you're saying our ministers can do one thing and the party can say something else. Something I disagree with. It is hypocritical. And therefore, I stand, and I know the political leaders stand, and I know all our cabinet ministers stand with the Congress of the people. My friends, there's another issue I really want to deal with. This troubling issue that everyone talks about in terms of whether we have to leave or not leave the government. Will I be able, as chairman, to be able to exercise that independence when it's time to leave? We cannot every Monday morning get up and say, we are leaving the government. We cannot do that. Our utterances is going to make this party irrelevant. We have to ensure at the end of the day that when we leave or if we leave, can be substantiated. There has been a major deviation in terms of integrity. I have always said we will not be part of a corrupt government. And if there is, must be substantiated.
Very interesting, of course, debate there. Of course, the debate started off, Ms. Caroline Spitwell started off. Well, of course, one of the things she spoke second, that's right, after Ms. Ramjet. So at this time, we are going to go, yes, to our 6 o'clock headlines right here on Win TV. Well, opposition MP Colin Bush says the government is afraid to touch casino owners, and he says they simply don't have the political will to deal with them. He made the comments while speaking in Parliament this evening on the motion to approve the provisional collection of taxes order.
That a man making $100 million a year. You think he cares if you raise not wappy table, slot machine from 10,000 to 20,000? You think he cares? He'll laugh at you. Walk all the way laughing to the bank, Mr. Speaker.
Emma says the former PNL administration planned to shut down all members club within 5 years, and that period was up in 2011. He's accusing the government of collecting money from casino owners during the election campaign and now protecting them.
It's going to be interesting, Mr. Speaker, because we now have a financial intelligence unit. And now when you have a transaction of $60,000 or more, at a declared source of funds. Rumors abound that one of the major contributors to the PP campaign was casino operators, Mr. Speaker. I asked the minister to tell me today, why are you pussyfooting with this whole question of casino gambling in Trinidad and Tobago? This is the third budget.
Well, the food cards being distributed by the government are given on a conditional basis. This from the Minister of the People and Social Development, Dr. Glenn Badar, saying as he spoke to residents of Presal this morning. The minister distributed 250 food cards to persons in the region at the function held at the Presal Community Center after addressing the conditional basis for the cards.
This is a conditional card. This is not a card to say, all right, go up the road and do what you want for the rest of your life. You now are part of a program. We are going to ask you how many children you have. And if you lie, we will take it back. No, we won't take it back like that. I mean, don't lie. How many children you have? Are they in school? Are they going to school? What is the percentage attendance in school? We're going to ask you these questions 3 months from now. And only when you have satisfied the requirements of this program in 3 months' time, then you will be renewed.
Ramana Singh stated that the People's Partnership will ensure social justice for all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
And speak and you will be listened to by the ministry of the people, which is under the patronage of the Prime Minister. It was a brainchild that everyone must be as equal as every other person. Whether you come from Ikakas, whether you come from Laventille, whether you come from here in Freeport, you are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, equal to every other citizen in this land. Welcome to the ministry of the people. Welcome to social equity and social justice like never before in Trinidad and Tobago.
In some other news, while True Value supermarkets suffered significant losses today as it was forced to close its doors, this after workers took industrial action and opted not to work due to the slow pace of wage negotiations. Head of True Value, Govind Maharan, says supermarket is offered a 7% increase, but workers say this is not enough. We have more from Judy Kanhai.
If you went to True Value supermarket today, most likely you might have been met with closed doors. Well, that is if you went to the ones either at Valpark Shopping Plaza, Trinity Mall or Long Circular Mall. The other three at Diamond Vale, One Woodbrook Place and El Socorro remained open for the most part of the day. This due to ongoing wage negotiations between True Value's management and the Banking, Insurance and General Workers Trade Union. Head of True Value, Govind Maharan, says this morning weekly paid workers came out to work for 1 hour. They then indicated that they will not be working for the rest of the day. Maharaj told 7 Eyewitness News that he was shocked by the action taken by the workers since wage negotiations did not break down. But President General of the BIGWU, Vincent Cabrera, says a meeting was scheduled for today with the supermarket, but they cancelled, and it's not the first time they have done so. In defense, Maharaj says meetings have been cancelled by both parties in the past, and this was never an issue. The supermarket has put a 7% wage increase on the table, but this has been rejected by the union. Maharaj says the wages paid are in line with leading players in the industry. But employees tell 7 Eyewitness News that the wage offer on the table would give them just over $1 increase per hour, and they are frustrated and fed up with the pace at which the negotiations are going. Both parties have been negotiating since 2010. True Value was unable to say how much money it lost today. Judy Kanhai, 7 Eyewitness News.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, a lot more news, a lot more, of course, our newsmakers from the debate last evening. We come back from the break. Stay tuned.
He has been described as the Thomas Edison of our era. Stanford Ovchinsky, the designer of nickel metal hydride batteries that are now used in hybrid vehicles, has died of prostate cancer at age 89. He is the American scientist whom many believe put the green in auto technology, a self-taught physicist for which the field of avionics is named after. He owned over 200 patents and introduced the idea of glass transistors in 1968. An idea which paved the way for the development of modern flat-screen monitors. He is the owner of the company known as Energy Conversion Devices, a firm that specializes in manufacturing the clean energy batteries. The firm also produces large, thin, flexible sheets of solar paneling, which was also invented by Mr. Ovchinsky, and he is now the recipient of several honorary degrees and awards. All this, and yet he had no formal education after high school. He had a passion for knowledge, as he claimed to have taught himself science by visiting public libraries in his hometown. His son Harvey said that it was his father's dream to change the world, adding that his father worked tirelessly even up until he got sick to change the world's attitude towards sustainable energy. It is indeed sad that such a remarkable individual has departed. Stanford Ovchinsky will be remembered for his innovation, his love for education, and his goals toward a cleaner earth. This has been your Tech Minute for today. Cindy Raghuba for 7 Eyewitness News.
Welcome back, welcome back. Well, from our Tech Minute, we're now going to go straight into the second newsmaker for this evening, and it comes from the incumbent chairman of the Congress of the People, Mr. Joseph Tony. Now, he has been under some serious scrutiny over the past few months, over the past year, particularly by the Minister of Sport and member of the COP, Mr. Anil Roberts. And recently in Tobago, he basically lashed out at Mr. Tony, and Mr. Tony actually had a few choice words and sent some messages for his detractors. Let's take a look at what Mr. Tony had to say during his presentation as he vies to serve another 2 years as the chairman of the COP.
Mr. Political Leader, my dear friends, members of the COP family, the theme of my campaign to become your chairman over the next 2 years is the second phase. You may well ask, well, what happened in the first phase? The last 2 years have been extremely challenging as the Congress of the People sought to navigate virtually uncharted waters of true coalition politics in Trinidad and Tobago. Please don't eat up into my time. I have heard this evening my two competitors speak about attending 50 meetings when the COP was founded 7 years ago. I have checked, Caroline and Reka, and I have attended about 100 meetings over the last 2 years, battling for the COP to be recognized as an able political party in Trinidad and Tobago. I am a firm believer that challenge brings opportunity, and there are many challenges for the COP in the coalition government. But with these challenges, we have opportunities, and we must use the opportunities as a partner in the coalition government. Now, I will be the first to admit that in hindsight, some situations could have been handled differently. I was the chairman under Mr. Dukaran for 1 year, and then I was the chairman under Mr. Prakash Ramada for another year. And perhaps we could have handled situations differently. But I dare say that because of the type of innings that I played in the first phase, the type of outspokenness, the type of frankness, the type of honesty that I brought to the statements emanating from the Congress of the People, that today our party is stronger than it was 2 years ago. Our country now recognizes that the COP is a voice of reason, it is a voice of honesty, and it is counting on us to be the voice of stability within the coalition government. I want to work with you, Mr. Political Leader, over the next 2 years to further expand our party's influence within the coalition government. And when we get positions of influence and people are paid a stipend for their efforts, I hope that those critics of the party don't regard those positions of influence as people who want to eat a food. There are some matters, Mr. Political Leader, Congress of the Party, friends and family members, 4 matters that I would want to focus on over the next 2 years. I want to speak about the COP individuality. Individuality of the COP must always be maintained. We must always be able to stand out there and people must look at us and say, there goes a party with a difference. This must be done in a strategic manner, of course, while at the same time honoring the commitments that we have made to Trinidad and Tobago. Over the past 2 years, friends, I have worked with both political leaders to ensure that we get more appointments to state boards. that we will gain the mayorship of San Fernando, that we gain additional cabinet positions, that we brought our influence to bear on the question of the Section 34 issue, where the relevant minister had to pay a price, and that we ensured that several government proposals, such as the reform of the URP, be included in the 2012-2013 budget. Work that has been done, historical facts that cannot be erased. I want to also move on to another matter, members, that is of serious concern to me, and that is the reform of the constitution of the party. And I want to say categorically that the reform of the party, the constitution, an exercise that has already been completed and a document already tabled to the National Executive, will focus, when I become chairman of the party, on matters of discipline. On matters of discipline. It is a major heartbreak to me. How much time more do I have? It is a major heartbreak to me that senior members of this party, be they former deputy political leader, be they former vice chairman, be they some cabinet ministers, and senior constituency officials who believe that it is their right and their duty to go before the media every Monday morning and nitpick on decisions taken by the party in properly constituted democratic fora. We cannot continue like that. And next 2 years, trust me, when you make me chairman, that will be corrected. I want to speak, my friends, about the reform of the national constitution. We got a mandate from the people. We had about 4, 5, or 6 areas to look after. Fixed date for the elections, 2 terms for the prime minister, Trinidad Tobago issues, referendum, right of recall. And we also had the voice of the majority vis-a-vis the voice of the minority, which I consider to be proportional representation. Let me assure members of this party that our political leader has the mandate from the cabinet with overall responsibility for constitutional reform. I want to urge members, let us support our political leader. Let us prop him up. Let us encourage him to ensure that these things are fixed. My duty as chairman of this party is not to undermine my political leader, not to pull him down, not to sidetrack him, not to derail him from his cabinet objectives. My role when I become chairman over the next 2 years is to ensure that I encourage my political leader to ensure that he achieves the objectives for which he has given responsibility by the cabinet. And I want to make it absolutely clear, that when you make me chairman, there will be absolutely no compromise on the issue of proportional representation. My friends, tell me how much time I have. So Nicole and Eunice, I heard you all mention about proportional representation. When either of you become vice chairman, we will work as a team to ensure that we get our political leader right on that matter. I come now to the fourth matter, local government reform. I want to say that we must approach that matter nationally and boldly. As your chairman over the next 2 years, I want 125 candidates for local government elections on my desk on Ash Wednesday morning. And when our partners call us to talk, I say, listen, I have 125 candidates, what do you want? I want to end my conversation with you here tonight to say, fellow COP patriots, that talk is cheap and performance beat old talk any time. So when you go to the polls October the 28th, vote for a gentleman.
Very interesting indeed. Let's take a break. When we come back, it's our sports cap reporter, Ms. Michelle Michael, and later on we continue with the rest of what took place last evening at Gaston Courts during the first debate for the executive positions of the COP. Stay tuned.
A very good evening to you, and thank you for joining us. I am Michelle Michael with your sports cap on 7 Eyewitness News. Well, the golden boy George Bovell III continued his golden ways yesterday when he won the men's 50-meter freestyle on the final day of the FINA Arena Swimming Short Course World Cup in Russia. This makes it the third gold medal of the World Cup for the Trinidad and Tobago swimmer, who has also won 5 silver medals. Swimming from lane 3, Bovell was in no mood for a runner-up finish and sped home in 20.90 seconds. In his second sub-21 clocking, Bovell beat the 2000 Olympic gold medalist American Anthony Irvin for the second time in a week. This gold medal success makes Bovell a contender for the $100,000 cash prize to be taken by the top men's swimmer, with the most points at the end of the 8 legs of competition. Last Sunday, Bovell won his second gold medal and set a national record in the men's 50 meters freestyle. Bovell will be traveling to Berlin today and then will compete tomorrow and Sunday. The golden swimmer then tops in China on November 2nd to 3rd, then to Japan on November 6th to 7th, and then the 8th and final stop in Singapore on November 10th and 11th. In more news, no agreement has been reached between the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board and the West Indies Players Association with regards to the distribution of the US $450,000 transfer fee for Trinidad and Tobago players Kieran Pollard, Sunil Narine and Dwayne Bravo. The trio elected to represent Indian Premier League clubs at the ongoing 2020 Championships League in South Africa instead of playing for Trinidad and Tobago. The decision meant that the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board would be $450,000 richer and also attracted the attention of other TNT players. The local cricketers expressed their desire to share in the money transfer, with some even threatening to withhold their services for the Champions League. An agreement prior to the TT leaving for the tournament was reached, however, with the TTCB and Weeper agreeing to negotiate and come to a solution. But after 2 weeks, first Vice President of the local cricket board, Dudnat Ramkisoon, revealed that no decision has yet been made and negotiations are continuing. Ramkisoon added that he expects a resolution to the matter sooner than later. Well, in more news of cricket, the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board has again engaged the services of former outstanding West Indies opening batsman Gordon Greenidge. The hard-hitting Bajan, who has had a long and fruitful relationship with the TTCB, has been assigned to work with the TTCB's Academy inductees, representing the new generation of young and upcoming national stars. One of these sessions will commence this weekend at the National Cricket Centre in Balmain, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The 61-year-old Bajan played 108 test matches for the West Indies and scored 7,558 runs, which included 19 centuries. His highest score was a knock of 226, and he retired with a tremendous average of 44.72. His career spanned from 1974 to 1991. Well, in more cricket news, rain seems to be following the Indian Premier League sides wherever they go. A third successive evening came in the Champions League 2020, and today was washed out in Durban. While some play had been possible in the previous no-result games, even the toss could not be taken today as a persistent but not heavy drizzle set in. It was the Delhi Daredevils' turn to be satisfied with 2 points after Kolkata Knight Riders and Mumbai Indians on the 2 previous evenings. While the rain had knocked Knight Riders out and left Mumbai Indians hoping for a Yorkshire win against Lions, it did not impact the Daredevils' chances as much. They were still placed second on the points table behind Titans and ahead on net run rate of the Auckland Aces, who also pocketed 2 points. Trinidad and Tobago's Red Force were knocked out of the competition earlier this month when they were defeated by Yorkshire. And finally, in tonight's Sports Cap, speaking of Golden Boy Olympic javelin champion Keyshawn Walcott will host a cruise aboard the Harbour Master on Sunday to raise funds to assist young athletes. Walcott's manager, Sean Roach, said a non-profit organization will soon be launched in Walcott's name. The boat ride will help to raise funds to be used to help to develop more amateur athletes to reach their true potential. Walcott struck gold in the men's javelin Olympic finals on August 11th, winning in a national record of 84.58 meters in one of the major surprises at the Games. Roach added that plans are being put in place to host the fundraisers and efforts are being made to sensitize corporate Trinidad and Tobago to play a stronger role in the development of sport. Well, that has been your Sports Cap here on 7 Eyewitness News. I am Michelle and Michael, inviting you to stay with us and have yourselves a safe and enjoyable weekend. Good night.
Welcome back to 7 Eyewitness News right here on Win TV. Thanks to Ms. Michelle Michael bringing us our Sports Cap report today. Well, we continue to take a look at the candidates in this year's executive internal elections for the COP. And coming up next, we have, well, the political leader of the COP, Mr. Prakash Ramana, where he made some what many would consider controversial statements in relation to the post of Prime Minister under the People's Partnership government. Let's take a look at the speech by the political leader of the COP, Mr. Prakash Ramana.
What a wonderful party we have. I cannot believe the greatness that exists in this party. I want to ask you once again to congratulate each and every one of these noble souls on this platform. This party was founded in 2006 with the greatest expectations and hope that any political party had ever given to this nation. We worked tirelessly, some from 2006, others like myself who joined in 2007. When that hope was dashed in 2007, many gave up the belief that this thing will survive. But because of you, all of us in this room and many thousands on the outside kept it alive because we knew that Trinidad and Tobago needed us as we need water, air, and life itself. The politics of the Congress of the People is a life-saving force that will ensure the success of this nation. After 2007, we worked tirelessly everywhere, every nook and cranny of Trinidad and Tobago, to ensure that the people felt as one. And in 2010, when the election was called, we gave selflessly of our leader, who ought to have been the Prime Minister. We gave selflessly of our work because we knew Trinidad and Tobago needed a change from the demonic forces that are taking control of this nation. We continue that work up till today. But the sad fact is that after we went in the relationship that got us into government in the People's Partnership, many of our supporters, a large majority of us, felt, well, listen, we had worked so long, we wanted to see a COP in power, we wanted to see a COP Prime Minister, there was a level of disappointment and disenchantment. The good news is that we don't need to have all the numbers to have the influence to change Trinidad and Tobago. This country is changing before your very eyes, and many may not yet realize it, because it is not a short-term thing. The Congress of the People is here to stay. I want to make that abundantly clear. We have not been diminished. We have not been diminished in any form or fashion in terms of our core value. Once we have a team that is willing to work, and it is easy to talk, but it is hard to do the work. And it is not an organization that requires office holders to get permission to work. This is an organization of the people. And I look into the crowd here and I see people who never held office, have never asked for it, but continue to build in their communities so that the COP is alive in every corner of this nation up till today. I am so proud to have been elected the leader of this great party. This party, I repeat, is the next evolutionary step of politics of this nation. Never let it be believed for a moment, as some will have us, the enemies of progress and of change, would want us to believe that the COP is irrelevant. Irrelevant? Look what is happening here. The entire nation is looking on and listening to what we are doing. The examples we set by the conduct of our elections is a mark of the new politics that our founding leader had preached. This is a new standard, and I know others are looking on with envy and try to emulate it. And in due course, the language of the politics has already changed. When you hear leaders in this country speak, guess what? You will know for a fact that they speak as if they're COP. That is a fundamental change in the politics of this nation. If you look back, this party has gained so much, having gone into a terrible equation in 2010. With limited numbers, we have been able to move from strength to strength. But you know, there are those who will want to define us by our success as failures. And when good things happen to the party and you hear that you eat a food and you sell out and you compromise, I say not one bit of that is true. I say that the growth of this party is the influence that it reflects. When the Marlene Kudry affair came about, this party stood firm and strong. And guess what? We have a mayor back in San Fernando, COP. When this party stood strong by our principles, we now have more ministers in the cabinet. This party has stood strong. And when we made the call for the Section 34 fiasco to be told to the nation, the truth be told and shared, this party succeeded on that. We asked for truth and we asked for consequence. We got truth and we got consequence. So forever the political history will mark that the COP was there when there was true accountability to the people. And that no minister of government could ever feel safe again in doing wrong things when the COP is around. We will not stand for wrongness. We will not stand for corruption. We will stand firm on our founding principles. Therefore, I congratulate each and every one of you who put yourself forward to be part of this great organization. But let me warn you, office holders are not there for the sake of title only. Now, as we transform ourselves to the next level, as we prepare for a bright, brilliant, wonderful future, now is the time for real work. Not for criticisms, not for negativity, but for the hope and compassion that we have always had to love our nation and to give of ourselves selflessly once again. This is not an easy task, but it's a task we've taken in the past and we've carried on with great mobility and honor. This is a task that the entire nation expects and wants us to successfully perform. Because in that success, Trinidad and Tobago will be in the best possible hands in the COP, being an ever-present force that will never be denied in this nation. God bless you all. Thank you for your support. Great is our party.
Mr. Prakash Ramadan, political leader of the COP. Let's take a break. When we come back, it's the Q&A segment. This is where things got really interesting last evening. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.